Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And tonight we're going to talk a bit about Week 15, how it went for everybody. And Jeff, I think your playoff disappointment continued this week, I would say.
Yeah, it's been rough. I'm a little bit under the weather, so this is not helping anything.
Not good.
But Craig just freaking destroyed me in one of our leagues in the semifinals. He had a super team. I kind of knew it was coming, but it was brutal. And then I was in the championship for a dynasty league. And I am in need of a Kamara performance in this fourth.
Yeah, you need like a touchdown and 40 yards here. So
yeah. So, you know what? It can still be done, but it's not looking good for me.
It's possible. But, okay, I think the main story about Week 15 is there was just a lot of disappointment out there. That's what it felt like. I mean, there's a couple good performances some of the players did. We'll talk about them too. But I almost feel like the disappointments were the bigger story this week. And, I mean, as the game's going on right now, Drew Brees is having another disappointing game, which is just, I don't understand what's going on with some of these offenses. Like, so Brees, we're in the fourth now, and he has 3.8 currently. Followed up his 15.9 last week and 9.3 the week before. I don't know what's happened. And like talking about Kamara, it's not like it's been a disappointing stretch for him. Where he's really not been the player he was before. He's been okay, I guess, at times, but he's not. He's only a 6.1, 10.7 last week, 7.2, and 9.8 the week before in standard. Man, what's going on with these guys?
No, before that, and I mean, obviously, I think that just goes with the Saints entirely. I don't know what their deal is. But if you do play next week, I mean, how do you feel about playing Brees? You know, set aside that maybe he'll make it worthwhile here in the fourth quarter, but do you move away from him, even though he's been so dominant all year?
You know, okay, they're going against Pittsburgh next week. And look at Pittsburgh just did to Tom Brady. You know, if there's a good option out there, I don't know what that is yet, but if you have an option that you feel has a good matchup and has been playing well, yeah, I think you play him over Drew Brees right now. They're just not getting it done. Same thing with, it's not just Drew Brees then, Jared Goff too. You got to play anybody over Jared Goff right now. I feel like too. Both of those kind of guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 3 weeks in a row, he has been so bad.
And Goff, okay, in the last 3 weeks, really Goff has thrown one touchdown and 7 interceptions the last 3 games. That's crazy.
And these are the offenses that were just dominant all year. And I mean, do you think that it's just a dog days? People are tired. They've seen them play so much, or a few injuries here and there.
Part of it, maybe it's later in the season. They're a little bit more worn down. People know what to expect now, I guess. But there's been some bad performances with those guys. And even what about Cam Newton tonight? He has 2.8 right now, and we're in the fourth. Last week he had 10.9. The week before 15.3. I mean, he's not been very good either.
Yeah, I know. I feel like you're just naming all the quarterbacks I have on my team.
Well, the good thing, I guess. I mean, for me, I guess I had the big enough lead against you already in our matchup we had, but we have a big Drew Brees versus Cam Newton battle going on right now. 4.4 to 2.8. Ugly.
So bad.
And there's just these bad performances. Like, okay, Saquon Barkley. He's been dominating for people. And getting everybody, a lot of people have gone to the playoffs because of Saquon, at this point. And then he comes in this week and, he just runs for 31 yards. That's it. Ran for 31 yards. He only had, let's see, where's his numbers? 25 receiving yards, so 5.6 points. I mean, it's been, I don't know what happened this week. Leonard Fournette didn't get it done again.
Yeah, and I feel like this is what happens nearly every year. Not saying that they fall off this much, but the guys that have been really putting up numbers are guys that are coming out fresh because of injuries. So, I mean, if you really do look at this, I mean, Jalen Samuels, he had 17.2. He did really well. Gus Edwards had 16.4. Jamal Williams, because
another one.
Because Aaron Jones went out, had a 15-point game. Marlon Mack. And then Derrick Henry.
This is what
not this much. This is a lot. But, like, I really thought he was going to get this kind of bulk. And you see what he's able to do, and he did this last year too. So, Derrick Henry, do you throw that in the heap pile of woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of deal? Like, really, like, how do you view him next year after a 47.8 and 29.2 in the last 2 weeks?
It's going to hype him up a lot, that's for sure. You know what? If they go and use him like this, why can't he be good?
I don't understand, and that offense, why you wouldn't give him 15 carries every single game. It doesn't make any sense to me, but it doesn't have to, I guess, right? And this is where he would really struggle. You only get him 8 carries, so he'll get 30 yards and look really bad. But, I mean, it's so disappointing to look at him and, oh, yeah!
Kamara? I don't have it on.
Kamara!
What do we got?
Close.
Touchdown, 16 yards? Is that what it's going to be? 16 yards?
Yeah, so I am only 2.2 points away.
That puts me
baby.
within reach in the Profit Listener League 1 against the FF forecast. Now I'm down. Still down. It's 7.6, but hey, got 12 minutes left.
Still, it was 1 touchdown. But I did laugh at this because I was like, okay, Kamara needs to get this. There's a few disappointing guys that played, but I was kind of like, he was my early pick for MVP. So I was like, who better than to put my money where my mouth is? So if he doesn't get it, I'll be very upset, but at least we're in striking distance.
Funny thing is, I'm looking at the running back list here, and Derrick Henry led the way in standard. Dalvin Cook's up there finally.
Give it to him.
Going for 2.
Yep, and they picked it off. They're taking it to the house.
Nice.
That's hilarious. They're going to be 9-12.
This
game is weird.
I was looking at these scoring leaders. So Henry finally shows up again. Dalvin Cook shows up. All that's what.
Can we talk about him just for a moment? Because as soon as he came back, he has not been getting bulk as far as rushing. Right, he's been getting passing, receiving, all that good stuff. He's finally this last game against Miami. He really looked like the guy. 19 carries for 136 yards for 2 touchdowns. But even before that, the past 3 games before that were all double digits. I mean, do you think he's finally back? It just took him this long coming off of injury? Because I think that might be it.
Good. And they finally decided to get him 19 carries. They haven't really done that this year. And that's the reason he was a top 10 pick last year, or the beginning of this year. We went, people were drafting him in the top 10, and this is why. You knew he had this kind of potential in him. So I feel pretty good about him for next year. And if somehow you had Dalvin Cook in your team and you made it to the playoffs this far, man, you're finally getting the benefits of it. But not a lot of people that drafted Dalvin Cook made it this far, because that's your first round pick,
right? Yeah,
and
even crazy too. Like if you look back at last game with Latavius Murray, he got 15 carries as well. Like they ran the ball a lot. So you wonder if this is going to be the shift of what they're going to try to make their offense a little bit about after Cousins. I don't want to say disappointed, but they haven't been the same. I mean, if we want to talk about people that have disappointed the second half of the season, I think Thielen
really has
one as well.
I mean, Kirk Cousins hasn't been any good. That guy sucked. But Thielen just what happened? I don't know. He's another one. I don't know if defenses finally decided to put some attention his way. Is that maybe more what was going on there? He was just running free early on, and then now they've just they started, paying attention to him, and it's just not the same.
I guess it has to be, and it goes along with everything else we've seen with obviously quarterbacks not performing, and I feel like people just have not been scoring near as much as they have. And do you know what Thielen had this past game?
Yeah.
Like I'm having a hard time even
way
finding
down
it.
there.
Oh, here he is. So he had 1.9. And really, I mean, if you think about it, it hasn't been terrible, but he went from 100 yards per game to only having 100 yards, and one of the last was 7. So 8.7, 8.6, 18.5, which was a good one, 8.8 with a touchdown, 7.8, 1.9. So not terrible, but and he's still at number 3. But really, if you're hitting this stretch, he hasn't been putting up the numbers that you were hoping for early on.
No, he really hasn't. He got you to this point, and then it's just now nothing. You could have put together yourself a great team and just done nothing this past week. Some of these players who just didn't show up, and then other ones who kind of appear out of nowhere now, like Wendell Smallwood with 17.7 in standard.
He's another one because of injuries. Yeah. I mean, Damien Williams. Really, if you're going down the line, Damien Williams, Justin Jackson, Elijah McGuire. I mean, Zach Zenner was up there. So, I mean, not that means a whole lot because he got a touchdown. But, I mean, it really is. It kind of turned this on its head, and you're seeing a ton of people that we weren't seeing at all because they're finally getting playing time. And it's just kind of how the offense runs through what used to be, say, a Kareem Hunt, or used to be like a Buck Allen / Collins. They're going to a lot of different running backs.
Then over like the receiver side here, Mike Williams really showed up on Thursday. And I mean, he won that game for him there, got that 2-point conversion, got the touchdown. Maybe this is a guy I know. This is, again, now he's going to be quite hyped up next year going into his third year. And, I think he probably should be. He is that good of a player.
Yeah, and we hyped him up quite a bit, and he just hasn't had the kind of the amount of targets that you would want him to have, and we thought maybe it would be even more so because obviously Hunter Henry was hurt. But obviously Keenan Allen went down, right, which didn't help me either. But this year is all about injuries. But I mean, how do you feel moving forward? Do you think he is going to be the guaranteed number 2 option?
I think he's going to be, quite heavily used in that offense. He has 9 touchdowns this year. It's, you don't even seem 9 touchdowns.
I would love to count up how many how many receptions does he have? Because he really was just, I mean, 1 catch for 30 yards and a touchdown. 1 catch for 55 yards and a touchdown.
I think he has 37 catches or something this year.
Crazy that.
Yeah, I think he has like 37 catches and 9 touchdowns.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously that won't continue, but it just shows how dynamic he is in the red zone and why you got to love this guy. Yeah. But it was his coming out party last week. I mean, what do you have? 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing.
Yep.
And he finally looked dominant.
He looked good.
He looked like if you threw it his way, he was going to make a play.
He really looked like that good of a player. Then, DeAndre Hopkins was there. He had a great game. It's actually one of the big time guys actually showed up. But then, Doug Baldwin kind of came out of nowhere, got himself 2 touchdowns. I hadn't seen this guy in forever, felt like. Hadn't been doing much. But then, how about this Robert Foster for Buffalo? Again, he's up here. 4 for 108 and a touchdown. Last week, he had 7 for 104. 2 weeks before that, he had 2 for 94 and a touchdown. The game before that, had 3 for 105. That's a interesting player to throw in your lineup. I don't think I'd trust it yet, even when he's put together.
I wouldn't, but he's going to be a name that you kind of think about next year, especially if Allen's doing well with him. Obviously, Allen looks like he is going to be productive one way or another. Hopefully, he doesn't get injured because he's running all over the place. But if this is his go-to guy, and they really don't have anyone else, right? I mean, other than this was Zay Jones, maybe they're going to probably have to draft some people, but they need help in a bunch of places. So he's going to be a name to kind of grab late, I think.
Then what about Alshon? I think, does Alshon just like playing with Nick Foles? Is that what's going on here? 8 for 160. He hadn't done much with Wentz all year.
I don't know. I mean, Foles. No, he hadn't, and that's kind of it's a bummer for Wentz owners. He never really got back into the fray. To be fair though, if you were going to come in as a backup quarterback and Foles is one of the better backups, you thinking you're going to your number 1 guy? Because really, I mean, who else are you going to? You would think that Ertz would have a big game, and I mean, 8 catches for 160 yards no touchdowns is a very big game.
Yep, that was pretty impressive. I didn't expect against the Rams. I didn't expect that Philly game them to win against the Rams at Los Angeles either. But maybe they're turning it on now. Robbie Anderson did pretty well. Kenny Golladay did really well, 7 for 146. And, I don't know how much hype will be there next year. He's had a rough stretch here for a bit. But I still believe in this guy for next year. I think he's going to be quite good. And Devontae Adams is good as always.
Yeah, I do too. I think the entire Lions offense, I mean, really, if you look at them, what they did this year has not been pretty by any stretch of the imagination. But between Galladay and Kerryon Johnson, and you hope that Stafford kind of figures out the offense, I think there are some players on this team that will be very worthwhile next year. And obviously, I know you're huge on Galladay, but I mean, what do you expect from him next year? Do you think that we think that he has top 10 potential, but do you actually think the way things kind of shook out this year, is that where you would put him? Or do you think that he would be a kind of a mid? Yeah,
he's definitely top 20 for me. He's probably top 15 for me at this point. I think I'd put him top 15. I don't think he can't break into that top 10, but he's going to sit there around 15. I don't know exactly right now, but seems to be about the spot for him. Can't really go too much higher than that, I feel like. Even if it's hard to draft him that way, but yeah.
Right, you're kind of putting a little too much expectation on him.
But I think he's going to be really good. And then, okay, look at Antonio Brown. He only had 4 for 49, but the guy still caught himself a touchdown. And
yeah, he's incredible.
The last 2 weeks, though, he's only had 9 catches the last 2 weeks for a total of 84 yards in 2 weeks. It's kind of strange, but he gets touchdowns at least. I think it was a career high for touchdowns now.
Yeah, he has 13 at least receiving. I don't know if he has any rushing or anything of that nature, but I mean, really, that team. I mean, Roethlisberger 17.1. I had him on my team, and Juju didn't do a whole lot either. So I think it's kind of the way the game was dictated. But yeah, Antonio Brown, even when he has a bad game, he has a good game. He's just, that's why he'll probably be number 1 again next year. He's just, he's unbelievable to have. Even with Juju kind of having his coming out party. I know he did well last year, but this year it seemed like he took away more kind of legitimate looks. He wasn't the second option always. They're definitely trying to get him.
And then some other guys that disappointed people this week. Amari Cooper came back down to earth. I think he only had you knew it was going to happen, right? Then,
but
say another guy, Tyreek Hill. He did his whole doesn't show up thing where he doesn't do very well. That's my whole hesitation with ranking Tyreek Hill high for next year or in any week, even though he was the number 1 player and number 1 receiver going into the week. And I don't know where it's going to, he probably still is. He's had too many of these games. Now, I don't even know. He's in standard scoring. He's had 7 games in single digits. Man, that's tough for your number 1 guy. He just.
Yeah, and with that, you definitely need a very solid number 2, like someone you can really count on, because that Tyreek is going to do this. The weeks he's on, he's going to win it for you. But the weeks he's off, you're going to be hurting.
It's just disappointing.
And what about Dante Pettis? So this 4 weeks in a row where he has been useful, and he doesn't even have a touchdown this time around, but 5 catches for 83 yards. Before that, 10.9, 24.7, 13.7, and at least 1 touchdown each of those 3. I mean, he's got to look pretty good for next year, especially with Garoppolo coming back.
I think so. I think he's very safe. He seems like a very safe player, very safe option. And I don't see why that won't continue next year. I think the team overall should be better, and he'll be a part of it. I don't know how good he's going to be, but I think that's going to be one of those good later, wide receivers to get. That could really, he could break out a little more. I don't see why not. He didn't even get to play a full season, and now that he's been out there with a 3rd string quarterback, essentially, he's been pretty good. So, yeah, I like him for next year. Just trying to figure out how high. I don't know if maybe he's like a wide receiver 3 for you. If you load up on other positions and you're trying to get a bunch of talent, and then you get Pettis later, he might be that guy. I could see it. Then let's see here. What else we got? Tight end wise. Oh man.
This debacle. So once again, it hasn't gotten any clearer. I mean, even Kelsey only had 6.1, which I had, so I just assumed that's what he's going to do. But I mean, really, the top guys, Garrett Selleck with, 12 points, but it just shows though, right? 2 catches, 61 yards and touchdown. That's tight end this year. The next one,
he's the one who caught the touchdown tonight from McCaffrey.
Yeah, one catch for 50 yards, and he's number
Then
2.
Trey Burton shows up.
And then
Jeremy Sprinkle is number 4 with his 3 for 19 and a touchdown.
So there's just no one. I mean, there's very few people you can count on. And it just
Darren
comes to show. I mean,
Waller
Kittle
shows up
was all
there
the way
with
down.
6.5. Who's Darren Waller?
Yeah, and what's even worse, he didn't even have a touchdown. It was one catch
And then
for 44 yards.
he ran the ball once for 21. Oh,
Yeah, so, I mean, tight end was such a debacle this year. I mean, it was great to have Kelsey, but and Ertz. But
Man,
other than that,
I think you go
you're all
spend
over the
on
place.
Kelsey next year.
Yeah, I think you do.
I've never been the biggest advocate of getting tight end because I've always felt like, yeah, there's a million guys. Yeah, there's a million guys, and they all suck. I wouldn't even know what to do with them next year. It's going to be terrible to rank these guys. I mean, because even players like Evan Ingram, who's had a bad year and a very disappointing year, his rank's going to be way too high because there's just nobody there. So you're going to draft him based off potential.
Yeah, exactly. And look at this too. I mean, this is Rob Gronkowski is, you're going to be up there. You're wondering if he's going to retire, but he is still ranked in the top 10. We'll see after, this year. He's ranked number 8 right now. He is averaging 6.1 points per game. Like he should be a lock and load 'em kind of starting guy. And it's just been bad. I mean, he only had 2.1 against Pittsburgh after you're thinking maybe he's getting back on track for like the playoff race, because 8 for 107 and a touchdown against Miami. You're like, that's the Rob Gronkowski I remember. But you can't even play him every single week. I mean, it's crazy.
It really is. But okay, how about the quarter? We did talk about some of the disappointing quarterbacks, but really honestly, if you look at the list, there's no one that's crazy that stands out this week. Matt Ryan led the way with 29, and this is a 6-point touchdown leagues. 29 was the high for the week. Deshaun Watson found himself up there. Sam Darnold's up there. That's a little bit of a surprise. Trubisky, decent week, but just a low-scoring week overall in the NFL. Just a very much so.
It was. And can we give props to Mahomes once again? So the last 2 weeks, he's technically had a bad week for him, and he's at 24.8 and then 22, which he could have easily been even worse. But that guy is, even when he does bad,
this 22 was his second worst game of the year.
That is
pretty impressive. And actually Josh Allen, that 21.8, this guy has been really good in fantasy. Go.
Oh, he had tried to hurdle. That did not work. Flags.
Oh, that's
coming back.
But say Josh Allen has been, really quite impressive and surprising. I don't know what to think about him for next year. Don't know if the rushing can continue, but he's been a good player.
Yeah. I'm not there yet.
For fantasy, he's been pretty good so far.
Right, and I don't trust the rushing aspect of it. I've never seen a quarterback that rushes consistently and can stay healthy. And not to mention, I just don't think that he's there where he needs to be throwing the ball quite yet. I mean, he gets around 200 yards throwing, but and maybe if he gets a few more weapons, but I think he needs another year. I think that without the rushing, he's been, pretty poor.
Here's a guy who's been really bad. Aaron Rodgers, 13.5. What do you do with him for next year? I mean,
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, he was still a top 10 guy,
and
which is crazy.
I almost hope in auction drafts, because that's kind of obviously what we do the most of. Do you think he's going to be a value? You think you're going to be able to get him for a cheap price? And if that's, I do not believe it. It's not going to happen yet. People are all going to do the same thing and think, oh, it's just, more people might be in on him because they think he'll go cheaper, and it might actually drive the price up slightly.
Right. And I think, his name is just too good still. It's not just 1 year and really it wasn't even a complete fall off. I mean, he'll end up a top 10 guy probably. You don't want to play him every week. But, you go into next year and you're like, okay, he's going to be a top 5.
Well, because if I can get him cheaper next year, I'm probably going to do it all day.
Right. And really, even think about the people that have been have been good this year. I mean, what, Matt Ryan is number 5 overall right now. He'll probably be a little higher after this week because he had 29. I mean, he's going to be a top 5 guy. Would you trust him more than Aaron Rodgers? Yeah.
I still believe in Aaron Rodgers yet. I still do. I feel like they'll get a new coach. Something will turn this around because, I mean, I guess this game too, it's Chicago. Chicago's been so good. So it's hard to, feel too bad about it. He'll be fine. Probably. He'll be fine next year. One guy I don't know if will be is Matt Stafford. I mean, he's been really bad for a long stretch here. He started the year pretty well. I mean, his first week wasn't good, but through week 8, he was a good fantasy quarterback. And since week 9, he has been terrible. And the funny thing is, his one good game and since then is actually against Chicago, which I don't know how that happened. He scored 19 points, but he's been bad. He's 21st ranked on the year.
You're right, from week 9 on. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I think it's one of those, like, because of a new coach, new system, whatever it may be. But the turnover in quarterback is going to be very, very strange, right? Because obviously you're not going to put a whole lot of stock in someone like Stafford, who usually ranks around number 10. But what about someone like a Mitchell Trubisky, who actually played really well this year? And, he slowed down after the 2 injury games. Week 12 and 13, he did not play. And then against the Rams, he came back and did hardly anything. But besides for that, he has been pretty good. I mean, he started off a little dicey, but that middle section when he was playing really well and healthy, I mean, 55.5, 33.3, 35.4, 25.9. That is legitimate. It is,
and there's some strange reason I still can't believe in him. And I don't know what it is.
I'm
not sure why. I just have a hard time with him. And you know what? But that's the thing. I'll be perfectly fine getting him for a very cheap price next year, which I still think it might be. Because if you're thinking auction, I mean, even if you're thinking regular draft, there's so many other players that are going to go ahead of him. He's still going to go down the list quite a bit. I mean, because obviously Mahomes is going to go number 1, and then Rodgers will still be up there, and like Matt Ryan's up there, Russell Wilson should be, all these guys. A lot of these guys should go ahead of him yet. So you're not going to have to spend much to get him, which is still, so he's going to be a very good value next year. That's where I think that's going to be. You're not going to risk anything getting Trubisky because, I mean, shoot, there's going to be a bunch of guys. We could list them off at some point. We probably will, coming up weeks. But there are a lot of guys who are going to go ahead of him. I mean, Andrew Luck's going to go ahead of him. Drew Brees is going to go ahead of him. Cam Newton's probably still going to go ahead of him, but maybe they shouldn't. And yeah, then all of a sudden my worry about him and my not believing in him doesn't even matter because his value, you're getting him for such a good price. So that might be I think that's how it's going to work.
Yeah, and I think a lot like this year, how we said not to pay for tight end, not to pay for quarterback, because really there's only 2 in each one that you trusted. Well, then obviously that would have bit you a little bit, obviously, in quarterback. But I think it kind of turns into the same kind of thing, where unless you're going to go out and get Mahomes.
Unless you're going to get Mahomes and Kelsey.
Yeah, exactly. Then you just don't worry about that position because you don't have to overpay because there will be people. And I think a perfect example, I mean, really anyone. Like, who else is going to go for a lot of money? Like,
there isn't.
Roethlisberger has been great this year. He really has. He's been number 4.
He'll never go for anything in a draft.
Right, exactly. So why pay for it? And the same thing for sorry, I am 2 yards away from tying it up.
So close.
Please
so
give
close.
It to tomorrow. But yeah, so that is going to be the question for next year. It's kind of like, do you go big on those players, or do you just know that I can get a deal? So I'm just going to wait until the end.
I think, again, you're going to be able, unless you go from home, which this is the one year I'm okay with that strategy, or next year. I'm okay with that strategy. I think I'll see how it shakes out, but I would not fault anybody for going for the Mahomes. Going for Mahomes, going for Kelsey. I would be probably okay with it just because of how good, they've actually been. So I usually don't go that route, but I might do that. Man, this is close. You're down 0.2. I'm looking at this.
This is brutal to watch.
Oh man, they were going to have a 4th down maybe here. This is for a championship. This isn't just for a win. This is crazy.
Get the first.
I don't think he got it. I think he's just short, but they're going to go for it, right? And they got to run it with Kamara, right? No, this is a Drew Brees sneak, right? This is what they usually do. Drew Brees is pretty good at these sneaks. This is going to be this is big time. Jeff might get a championship here.
Ugh.
You don't know, but all right. I think that's all I got for this episode. We'll wait and see. If you're listening to this, Jeff needs 2 yards to tie for a championship with Alvin Kamara. I don't know if you're going to do it, Jeff. We'll find out in the next episode. How about that? Let everybody know.
Yeah, sounds good. Damn puke.
All right. We'll talk to you guys next time.